Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Shanti Ma podcast. This is episode 13. Today I sit down with the lovely Hilary Jastram. Hilary is the founder of J Hill Marketing and Creative Services, an agency specializing in premier copywriting, editing, and book editing. She is the founder of Sick Biz, as well as the host of the Sick Biz Buzz podcast, which is something you guys might want to check out if you feel like being inspired. And for those of you who may not know, Hilary is also my book coach. She's the one behind the scenes making sure my book is readable and enjoyable and not a pile of crap. In this episode, Hilary shares how she overcame years of self-sabotage, anger, anxiety, and even an eating disorder to becoming highly successful both personally and professionally despite living with a chronic illness. She has tried and true knowledge that by being ruthless about change and examining the dysfunction in ourselves and relationships, we can stop living in the past and reclaim the now. She gives us a bunch of practical tools in this episode today, with my favorites being about forgiveness, trust, self-love, and how to ultimately raise our standards. Hilary believes that you won't reach your goals if you don't change your self-talk, which is why you have to be relentless about change, and that change comes from when you want it bad enough and you back it up with action. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you do, please remember to subscribe. You can also become a member on Patreon at patreon.com/shantima. With your support, I will update my sound and video quality so that you can have the best experience possible. Welcome to my podcast, Hilary.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Shanti. It's awesome to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad that I could get you on because for those of you that don't know this, Hilary is also my book coach, which is very exciting.
It is very exciting. I know. That's like I have two loves. That's my passion. Then I have a purpose too. And they kind of intertwine all together. So it works.
Well, that would be a good place to have you start by explaining a little bit about who you are, what your background is professionally, and then some of the personal adversity that you have faced. And then we'll get into how to overcome some of that.
So who I am, what a great question. It's the same question that I ask people on my podcast, and I know it just like freezes them and deer in the headlights. But I am an entrepreneur. I'm a business person. I have had a pretty good business going on now for almost 6 years. It'll be 6 years in January. It was necessitated that I go into business for myself because I got sick. I got life-changing sick. So, and we didn't understand why or how or any of these things until even this year. So when I got sick, I got a disease like like a multiple sclerosis. It's called transverse myelitis, which is a sister disease to multiple sclerosis. So I couldn't work outside the home. My symptoms were I had vertigo for like 5 to 7 months. I mean, it was crazy. And I still have some degree of that where it sounds like, or it feels like I am on a ship. I am on a boat. So some people have different kinds of vertigo, but mine is like I'm on a boat and I'm always like, trying to walk the deck with Captain Steubing. So I lose sensation in my feet, my face burns, I get horrific headaches. The fatigue is like breaking. You could write an essay on it, on how awful it is. So anyways, that began my journey. I couldn't work outside the home and I had no other choice. So I had to create this business out of thin air, but I had done some college. I had made it all the way through junior year, and then I had knee surgery that was pretty significant. And so I couldn't go back, and they said, you can't have any more money. And I said, well, that's super great because I'm a senior. Thank you. So I took all that knowledge and funneled it into starting my own business. And it's been great. I mean, I like to say that I needed to be broken because I had horrific circumstances in my past, abuse of all kinds, narcissism coming at me. I had multiple abandonment issues, which also caused me to abandon people because I'd be like, oh, I'll just throw the first punch. So
I'll leave you before you leave me.
Yep. Exactly. So, and I can't count that as abandonment because it truly wasn't abandonment. It was me pulling the plug. And so a big part of getting better and healing is taking accountability for my actions and what I've done. So I can say that now. I can say, you know what, I beat people to the punch. I was terrible. I had terrible rage. Just don't even try and get near me, or it's like trying to hug a wet Wolverine. Like I was ridiculously rageful. And so, but I didn't like who I was. I didn't like who I was becoming. I didn't like the message I was teaching my children. And I was honestly just sick of drama. It was so enervating. I also had a really bad eating disorder for like 3 decades. I got down to 93 pounds. Wow. And they wanted to inpatient me and like put me in treatment. And, what was ironic was that I would be with children, and I say children as an older person now, right? But as I'm not even an older person, but like an adult. I'm an actual physical human adult. And my kids weren't that much younger than these teenagers. And they were like, your situation is so serious that you need inpatient care, and you would be living with these teenagers. And something inside me just said, that's not acceptable. I'm not leaving my children, and I'm dealing with an illness of my own making, and it's not okay anymore. So all kinds of trauma. I did finally get better. And now, and I wrote an article that talked about how much I love my muffin top. So I earned it.
You did.
I earned it. So I get to say that. But my entire journey has been about self-improvement, and getting sick was exactly what I needed, because I would tell you I trusted you. I would say I trust you, and we have this ongoing trust going on, me and my boyfriend at the time, No, we didn't. Always in the back of my mind, I was going to have to rescue myself. I was going to have to pick my kids up at school. I was going to have to figure out how to pay the bills. I always felt like, I showed up as a partner in theory, but when it came down to it, I didn't feel like a partner because I didn't let myself go to that place. So all of this to say that where I am now is monumentally different. I feel like crap a lot of the time, not going to lie. And I just started a new Lyme treatment because we now know that Lyme was the cause of the transverse myelitis, and it also caused fibromyalgia. And there is a new test for fibromyalgia that will definitively tell you if you have it. And I have it.
Really?
There's a blood test now. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Because for the longest time, they couldn't figure out it was like the invisible disease.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. And it has something to do with the proteins in your blood and how you're processing them. So it's really interesting. So we know that, and we know that Lyme can cause fibro, and we know Lyme can cause MS, and we know Lyme can cause TM, and it can cause all kinds of things. So I'm starting on a new Lyme treatment because my focus is that I have been healing mentally, and emotionally with some people in my family and stuff like that. And my romantic relationship came along after about 7 years. It was so hard. I had to just stick in there. I had no idea what I was doing. Like my whole mantra was, I'm still here. That was just, and eventually that turned into, okay, stability is overtaking these long years of instability. So stability is now becoming the new normal. When stability becomes the new normal, here's a spoiler alert for you. It's a little boring, okay? Because you're used to drama. Oh, I'm moving. Oh, I don't have a job. Oh, so-and-so broke up with me, or I broke up with them. Oh, how am I going to get money? It just, so-and-so's not speaking to me. You're used to that. Some of us are born into it. And so we don't even know the difference. But so stability, you have to get used to it. And the hardest thing to do, but the best thing to do for me anyways, was if I didn't know what to do and I was bored, I would do nothing. I would do nothing. That's my rule. Do nothing. If you're uncomfortable, do nothing and sit there. That's all you have to do. It's really hard to do though, but do it. And so now bringing in the healing element of treating this Lyme disease, I'm hoping to address the physical aspect this year and get some hope. I mean, I will always be chronically ill because the Lyme disease ate a hole in the sheathing of my spinal cord. And even though it's scarred over, I will always have it. My electrical system, my nervous system will always be abnormal. And I hope I will not always have the superpower of temporarily being paralyzed. So if I overdo it, it's crazy. Like if you want me to be temporarily paralyzed, just put me on an exercise bike and then I will lose the ability to walk.
Wow.
It's the craziest thing. Like if somebody had told me when I was 25, you're going to have the superpower, I'd be like, you're good. Shut up. No, I'm not. Who can do that? But it's true. It can happen. And so I use wheelchairs for long distance and stuff like that. And but I'm reminded daily that it could be so much worse. So
yeah. And were you like a pretty active person before you ended up with Lyme?
It's funny. If you talk about activity in terms of like physicality, I would sit on my butt and prune my rose bushes, okay? Because I was trying to get them to grow, and rose bushes they're a little, I mean, they're thorny for some reason because they're thorny in all ways. So, but I had kids. I had little kids, not little, but I mean, active children. So I was always running them around from here to there, to this practice, to that practice. They were tweens and preteens. One, I think, had just moved out of the house, but I had a great job. And this is funny because I thought it was like the job of my life.
What were you doing?
I was a marketing manager for a very large furniture company that has like a regional base. So they had like, in total of all three of their brands, they had like 30 stores, something like that, maybe mid-20s stores. So I would handle their social media and write their content and even do some shoots on the floor. And, I was writing about tapestries and interior design and going to work. And I was drinking coffee like all day and then writing. And I was just in heaven. But I worked very hard. And I was overworking myself. I was making choices to overwork myself out of a scarcity mindset. So I have to say yes to this. I have to say yes to that. I couldn't, I was just rolling over. And I would come home and try and piece together all the parts of home. Oh, we got to eat dinner and, and two kids have homework now. And then I got to say hello to my fiance by that time. And how was his day and support him. And, I had 3 people going to school at one time in my house. So everybody was, doing this thing. And then we had come from foreclosure 1 year before, and we're living in a rented farmhouse. So we were like hastily packing up our stuff and just reorganizing. I had to drive the kids to school because we moved out of the district, but I refused to take them out of their school. So I was like, I'll just drive you because it's not your fault I couldn't get it together. And we lost your childhood home. So we're going to move, but you're not going to lose your friends. So every day I would drive them to school until they were old enough to get cars and do it themselves. So yeah, we were busy, not in a sense of, going to the gym and stuff like that. I tried. The gym doesn't like me. I don't like the gym, but we're gonna try again. I'm talking to a special trainer tomorrow about just incrementally doing things. Like I can only work out for about 5 minutes at a time. So it makes it seem like, well, what's the point of doing this? Is it going to do anything? So I'm going to give it another shot because I really want this year to be the year that my health changes massively changes. It has changed a little bit. I was working with a chiropractor and I have not found a lot of luck through traditional Western medicine. They want to throw you on a bunch of pills. Like I seriously would have been set up as a drug dealer. I'd be like,
totally.
yeah, you want Oxy? Yeah. You want this? Yeah. Come on over here. I got this for you, and I cannot do that to my body.
No, because you band-aid one problem and then create like how many more?
Oh, absolutely.
Not to mention addiction.
Yes. And I could feel myself on one drug becoming addicted. I could feel myself. And that's just, some people maybe need that more or process pain in a different way. And so I'm not putting that down. If you're on a drug, that's a narcotic because it helps you. But for me, I was like, no, it's not me. I've never been addicted to anything. And my grandpa was super addicted to alcohol. And so I've always been worried about that thread.
Addiction.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to, I will not attempt that.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like with pharmaceuticals, it is a very slippery slope. And there's just so many stories of that is actually where people get started. And, then they're homeless and on the street. And it's like, who was your drug dealer? My doctor.
Exactly. So when I went to the chiro, I started with like the blood sensitivity tests and all that stuff. I started getting massages once a week. I started getting my feet zapped. So they do like a TENS unit thing and send these electrical currents in because I had a difference in temperature between my feet and my calves of 33 degrees. So you have huge circulation issues that need to be addressed. And then I detoxed. Like he had me on massive, I swear I pooped like a goose for like a month and a half. But after that, let me tell you what, I walked better. Okay. So there is something to it because my body was bogged down with all kinds of toxins and it affects how how you're walking around, your productivity, your ambulatory, if you can walk or not. I used a cane a lot before. I never use a cane now. Never. When I get tired, I start to Igor it a little bit. I'll kind of drag my leg a little, but, and then you throw me in a wheelchair and then we keep shopping. But I had never gone so long without using a cane. And then when I did this detox thing, it was like, yes, this is working. He put me on anti-parasitic for a while and also did a PMF machine, which shakes you and it drains your lymphatic system. So I'm now on a detox of a different sort because when you're sick and you have a compromised immune system, and I want to state compromise doesn't always mean that you can't fight off things. It means for your particular body that this is how your immune system is functioning. I have a good immune system when it comes to like colds and stuff like that. I do really well. Afterwards, super tired, not gonna lie. But this will clean out the junk that your cells shed inside of you because your immune system is not able to process those. And I'm working with a doctor who had Lyme disease and developed this entire protocol. So and it's all herbal. So like, I'm super excited about it. And I think detox is highly important. People oftentimes don't want to talk about it. It's embarrassing and whatever. Like, man, you got to get that stuff out. I don't care how it goes. Get it out.
Yeah, I'm a huge believer in alternative medicine. I think that Western medicine has its place, but it's not enough because it isn't very preventative. And if you can do like a cleanse or a detox, like, a couple times a year or at least once a year, because I know in Ayurveda. I have a little bit of experience with going through a few of those protocols. And I know that the doctor that I did a protocol with, he explained to me that everything you bring into your body later becomes tissue. And so, you know, how much you absorb into your body through the air, your environment, things you eat, things you drink. And so it later becomes tissue, and it doesn't become tissue right away. It will, I think it's something like, I think it was like 3 months. I could totally be wrong about this, but I think it's 90 days later. So how you're feeling in your body is a result of how like generally what you put into your body like 3 months before.
Holy moly. So I've got some bad days ahead then.
I know, I had pizza the other day.
Yeah, like, okay, so that means like in February of next year, you're going to, or whatever 90 days is. But no, totally. I think that makes a lot of sense. And you have to be just keyed into what your body needs. So I know dairy is super bad for me, super bad. Gluten is super bad for me.
Same.
Sugar is the worst. Mm-hmm. Okay. I have 1 coffee with an almond milk and 4 grams of sugar. That's it. There's no candy. There's no sugar sneaking in. That is literally, I eat like a cave person.
Fruit sugar?
What's that?
Fruit sugar is okay though?
Fruit sugar in moderation.
Okay.
So one of my clients is also a nutritionist, and he was like, hey, there's a reason that fruit traditionally was not available year round to people. Now, I think this is a little different if you live in the Bahamas or whatever, but fruit is harder to get to typically than it is to get to vegetables. Vegetables are hardier. They can grow more places, whatever. So he said, think of it like nature's dessert. And, I love fruit, strawberries, kiwis, blueberries, raspberries. Like I could just live off of that. So him telling me that, I actually got mad and I was like, I can't talk to you right now. Same thing with honey. I substituted honey, but the body doesn't know the difference. So the other thing in trauma too, since I don't want to go down like this diet rabbit hole, is your trauma is a big indicator of your health. So like my adrenals were shot. I had incredible anxiety that would pin me to the bed shaking for all night until I fell asleep because I was exhausted. But those surges of cortisol destroyed me in many, many ways. So things don't function the way they normally do. But I also think they set you up for huge amounts of inflammation. They hit your immune system. So you cannot fight off things as readily. So trauma has a physical impact in that it kind of gets your body ready to be in a terrible state. So everything that we can do to address our trauma is incredibly important. Not only is it calming to our mind and provides us closure, and we need those steps, we need the processes, we need the strategies so we know how to deal with trauma, so we know how to overcome a fear of confrontation. That can spike cortisol, so we know how to fight. Raise your hand if your parents taught you how to fight. Nobody's hand goes up. Nobody was like, you know what? Listen, this is what you do. Okay. And you don't make it personal. And this is when you step away. And this is how you exercise being angry. Nobody's parents taught them that. No way. Maybe parents are today because we're finally talking about it. But it's all of these things combined together. If you have trauma and you don't know how to get over it, you're going to have a problem later in life.
Definitely. Well, and that's why I found your part 1 and part 2 on your podcast really interesting, because you had a lot of really great points on how to, take personal responsibility, how to acknowledge it, and how to climb out of it. So I guess I guess I'd like to ask you, for you, what was sort of the beginning for you on how you were able to pull yourself out of that place? Because, uh, trauma and even just upbringing and patterns, mental patterns we develop can cause a lot of darkness that can be very difficult to see your way through and out of. And I know for a lot of people listening, I mean, who really can't relate to that, but it's to different degrees. So for you, what was sort of like I want to access your tools. What was your moment, and how did you start to overcome that?
Well, I think you have to have a moment of honesty. And a lot of times those moments come out of pain. They come out of losing somebody again. They come out of relationships that don't work. They come out of angst with your children, your mother, your father, your sister, your brother. That's where they come out of. They come out of being unable to hold a job. It's these things, and it's not like I'm going to go into society and I'm going to do this thing because I don't have any control and everybody's telling me what to do. No, these are actually good for you. It's good for you not to do certain things. So I honestly got tired of myself. I had innumerable counselors. I don't even know how many. I think I counted 7 at one point. And I would just keep going back, and if somebody like kind of ran their course, I'd be like, okay, I feel like I can move on now. And then I would need to go back again. And I still check in when I'm not doing okay. And I have the awareness now to say, I'm not doing okay. This is one of my tools. This is what I need to do. So it really came out of pain. I was so tired. I was tired of myself. I was tired of when I looked at myself, I wasn't proud of myself. I was a person who would snap your head off. I didn't even care. I was just like, I don't even care because everybody leaves me. So I'll just sever this right now. I don't care. Friends left me, everybody, and I left them. And the pain arose from the fact that I pretty much lost my whole family when I was about 14 because my dad moved away. My younger and older sister, my older sister became kind of like a mother to her. And then my mom was off doing her thing. And I was 14, turning 15, terrible age, by the way. And oh my goodness.
I would never want to be 14 and 15 again, ever.
Never, never. So, but I had nobody, and nobody cared, and it was bad. Like, it was really bad. I wound up skipping, I skipped 31 days of creative writing, and my instructor passed me because he said, I know you know how to do this. He saw that there was just really something that was the matter. Otherwise, I shouldn't have graduated. I moved out for a summer when I was 16. I lived with 2 drug dealers. Nobody came to find me. I mean, it was this tremendous, incredible pain. And I was very, very angry at being forgotten. And even when I thought I was over it, the Wolverine would come out, and I would lash out. But after a while, you're tired of it, and you're tired of reliving pain, and you don't want to talk about it. And when you can talk about it without crying, I think that is a very, very big point, because then you're able to look at your own participation in your history. And I could say, okay, this happened to me, but after the fact, I wasn't nice, and I have to take responsibility for that. So how am I going to change it? And that was my big moment of how am I going to change it? And I made it my goal. It was like quitting smoking. I said, no, I'm not. I'm changing my behavior, and I'm relentless. So if I fall off the wagon, then I'm going to get back on, and I'm going to try harder, and I'm going to apologize like I mean it by changing my behavior and showing people different things. People thought I was crazy. Legit. They were like, throw away the key. She's done, because I seriously was out of control. Out of control. You tell me to do something? No, I will do exactly the opposite. I mean, it was ridiculous. So, I had to do things like give myself rules in how to fight. So my fiance, now my husband, and I at the time, I was like, listen, we fight terribly. Okay. We fight like cats and dogs. We have to relearn how to fight, and we have to do it together. So we had like a talking stick. I mean, we had to start with very basic new rules and stick to it. And so that was my awakening. But I started just really that moment of honesty. Do I like who I am? I didn't like who I was. And even if it was down to the fact of like, do I like having an eating disorder? No, I don't like that. Do I like having an anxiety disorder that I feel like I could probably have a little bit more control over? I don't like that. Do I like how I'm yelling at my kids? I don't like that. Do I like that I can't get along with coworkers? I don't like that. Okay, great. Now you've got your list. And it's not to say that I don't like me. I liked me. I thought I was worth fighting for because deep down inside, I was a good person. I was just hurting, but I deserved forgiveness, and I deserved to be able to learn how to forgive other people and to even let them help me, which was a groundbreaking moment too.
Yeah, actually, one of the things that you had said, which was creating your own closure, that was one of your steps, and not waiting around for others to change. And the big question that you had asked yourself, and I really liked your honesty about it because I am with you on that 100%. I mean, as you know, this is what we've connected on, is that in order to make changes, you really do have to be honest with yourself and see your part, because you can't get anywhere when you're a victim. You can't. When you've made yourself in your mind a victim and you stay there, you can't progress forward. And so something that you had said was, why can't I forgive this person? And what am I getting out of this? So I wanted to ask you about that, because that sounded like a pretty real moment for you.
So picture this. I'm sitting in bed and I'm watching The Shack. Okay. And The Shack is a movie about a man who endures a tremendous loss in his life. And he is angry and he is searching for ways to forgive this person. Okay. Who has taken this very precious gift from him. I'm not going to give anything away. All you need to know, it's a movie about forgiveness. He goes on this walk with, I believe he is a shaman or something of that nature. He's a Native American person. And he says, you need to sit down and say, I forgive, insert name. You might need to say it 1,000 times. So I sat there in the dark with just the light of the TV, my husband sleeping beside me, sobbing, going through a half a box of Kleenex and trying to like quietly blow my nose. And I said out loud, I forgive so-and-so, I forgive so-and-so, I forgive so-and-so. And I could not do it. But I was on this quest of, why can I not forgive? It is not as easy as they say when it is a very deep pain, even when you're yearning and you want it. Sometimes you can't forgive. So I had to ask myself, and I talked to some other spiritual leaders, what am I getting out of this? And what I found I was getting out of it was that my acrimony and my regard of this person was the only connection I had to them. To forgive them meant that they were going away. True forgiveness means we're moving on from this moment. And to me, that meant I'm moving on physically from this person, and they're going to be out of my life. So I have to hold on to this thing. And when this person would disparage me, that was attention. I was just like a little kid getting negative attention. That was attention. I'm unforgettable. If they stop doing that, they stop loving me, they stop giving me attention. And I had to have a talk with myself about, but is that what you want? Is that what you want? Or isn't it causing you pain? And isn't it causing you to stay stuck? And why is the stake so much higher of you getting this convoluted form of love versus loving yourself? And that's when I was done. And I finally could say, I know what this forgiveness means. For me, it means this person may be gone, but I am closing this chapter of my life, and I am refusing to get any pain from it again, because I was milking the pain out of it because it was giving me something. So I had to stop milking the pain, which meant I stopped getting the attention. And then I had to just wait and see how this would go. I had to take the chance of losing this dysfunctional relationship. Well, what's happened in the years since is that that relationship is healing massively. And I had to have a talk with this person and refuse to stand down and say, no, this is my reality. I'm not a people pleaser anymore. Because being a people pleaser made me actually resentful and really angry. I didn't feel listened to ever, and finally it was like I was being browbeaten, and I had to just go slink away into my cave and go, okay, I'm never going to win. This person never wants to hear anything how I feel. And they mean something to me. They're an integral part of my immediate family. But that changed when I finally stood up and said, okay, I'm the only person who is going to defend me. I'm the only person who's going to stand up for me. We can't sit and wait for somebody else to go, you know what? I've got your best interest in mind, and I'm just going to fight for you, and that's going to be my job. That's your job. That's your job. Your job is to say, I want to live like this. I want to be heard. Then you need to be heard. And that means taking risks, but being okay with that because you're doing the work inside. This is where the work ends and begins, period.
Yeah, you were saying about how important it is to stand up for yourself and demand change. And the other thing that you had said was like demanding good treatment. How did you do that? Because for people who are used to people pleasing, which seems to be a common theme, especially for people struggling with self-love and self-worth, how did you do that?
So I had to give myself some things to say, and I was tapping into NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, without even knowing it. So for me, I was just like, I know me. I'm going to say these things. What do I need to do in the moment? Because in the moment, I'm going to be crazed. In the moment, I'm going to be very emotional. I'm not going to think rationally. I'm going to issue ultimatums. So I know that is not going to work for me and my long-term goals. So I had to give myself some phrases that I could use. So if somebody started mistreating me, I would say, and I would rehearse this, I would say, you don't get to treat me like that. If they talked down to me or were rude to me or insulted me, I would say, you don't get to speak to me like that. I had those two phrases. That was it. And, they maybe came out in a mouse's voice when I first used them, but it stops people. And you can say things like, I'm done talking right now because you're not treating me well. And I will not allow that to happen. You have to be absolutely ruthless when it comes to defending your right to be treated well. And it is hard to do. I also like the theory of start with one. Okay. So I would start with one thing. I'm angry. I don't like that. Great. What is my one rule that I need then? Okay. I need to know the fighting rules. If I don't have the talking stick, I don't get to talk. And that means even if somebody's like, and you know what you did, and you're always blah, 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 you still don't get to talk. You have to wait, and then you get your turn. And so you're training yourself how to do it while you're training the other person too. Like, I'm not interacting with you in this way anymore.
Right. And so if they, for an example, when you're practicing this, were to not be playing by the same rules and interrupting you, would you just disengage then
Yes.
and say, that's it, we're done talking about this? See, that
Yeah.
and that's so important, because I don't believe that many of us were taught how to, like you said, effectively argue.
No.
And if you come from any kind of dysfunction, just your ability to fly into very unreasonable responses, and I should say reactions rather than responses, can make that very difficult to stay calm and be able to not like fire to everything and make things way worse. And then you feel like crap because you're like, okay, well, now I'm not acting in integrity.
Yes, it does. And it undercuts your goals that you've worked so hard for. There is no better feeling than defending yourself and demanding that treatment and knowing that you've changed the way that people treat you. Some people are not going to even want to participate. Okay. Sometimes the dynamic is you're so used to it. This is the role, for instance, like, a person's grandma and them might play, right? My grandma disparages me. I do this, whatever. My grandma's a wonderful person, by the way. I just want to say I was using that as an example. So, but you get into these roles and you get into these expectations. Grandma says this, I react this way. There's also the hierarchy of roles too. Who you are in the relationship. I am a grandchild. I am a daughter. So the respect can be perverted so that it becomes this almost dictatorial situation. Well, you're going to respect me and you're going to say this and react this way and you will be submissive. And that's not respect. A lot of us grew up with, the iron fist in the household. I had a very scary father. And that affected me. That affected me a lot. It even affects me today where I'll be like, and I just, it'll be like I'm watching a movie or something. But so the point is that, it gets in you and you play the role and you know how to play the role. And you're actually, even though it's difficult and it doesn't serve you, you're more comfortable with that role than you are in changing that role. And that person, when you try and change that role, may, one, deny it. Oh, we don't have that dynamic. That's in your mind. And that's their reality and that's their perception. And that is fine because that's not your job. Your job is simply to do what you promised to do and undergo this monumental change for you. Yes, you're improving relationships, but you're doing it for you.
Yeah. And that's actually, as you do start to change, you will have these people in your life who are like, whoa, this isn't how you usually, I want you to react in a predictable way. I want you to react the way that I'm used to you reacting. And so people will try. And so you probably, like you were saying about being ruthless about changing. And so I would imagine that for something like that, and I can personally relate to with certain dynamics that I've had, you have to set some pretty strict boundaries with those people because
you do.
Because otherwise you keep getting roped into that over and over again. Oh, is that your dog?
That is my freaking dog. He is being such a dork today. I just tried to come on, dude. But we love each other, so it's hard. I know. It is. It's threatening to them. It's new to them. They haven't done the introspection that you have. They haven't thought, they haven't written about it. They haven't talked to people about it. They haven't discussed it with their counselors. My husband helped me because I had a major thing with conflict, any type of conflict. It would be like, I had to express a difference in how a project was being done, for example. And then I would wait with bated breath for the response to come back. Then I would see the response come back and my heart would start racing and I would break out in an immediate sweat because I had learned that conflict of any kind means somebody is leaving, somebody is going to say something devastating. It creates loss. And so, you have to figure out your tools and your people, but you're putting all of this thought and effort into it. You're enlisting people to help you. And then the other person is maybe going to feel a little blindsided, because to them, if they're not thinking about it, they're thinking, well, this is just how we are. Or maybe they're not as quote unquote sensitive. They're not as empathetic or whatever. And that's how they are. It's not right or wrong. It's that it is not okay for me. It's not okay for me. So if you can't see that, I can't participate in a relationship that is devastating to me emotionally and hurts me. And it causes me to struggle, so that I am more likely to make poor decisions, like falling back into the grips of my eating disorder, or sabotaging my own relationships, or having more anxiety. If I am, I know that this is the way I handle high stress like that, I will not put myself in that situation. I absolutely won't. And if I need help handling it, then I need help handling it. And there is no shame in that. There's no shame.
Right. So, with trust, because that's something that I feel a lot of people, including myself, actually struggle with, because when you have been, when you've experienced betrayal of any kind, and it's funny because, well, it's not funny, but it seems to me that for people who experience betrayal, it becomes the pattern. And,
Yes.
and you start attracting those kinds of people. You keep recreating the story, and you get betrayal trauma over and over. So for you, how did you trust again? How did you work on that?
I don't know who said this, but I definitely agree with it. The only way to trust is to trust. That's it. And that means you have to make that decision. I also use a rule of once I can forgive you, okay? Twice is a pattern. That's it. There's no 3 times. There's no 4 times. It is see yourself to the door. That's it. Even if I'm devastated by somebody leaving who has betrayed me, once is a pattern. So it's important to have, that is my dog talking now, at people out the window who have a right to walk by the house.
I was like, oh, are you hungry? Your stomach is growling.
Oh my God, I was starving on this new Lyme treatment. It's crazy. No. But once is a pattern. So when I'm moving through these healing layers, what is helpful to me is to have rules for myself. Right. So my rule is once is a pattern, once is forgivable, twice is a pattern. And after that, it is on me to trust. No matter how scary it is on me to trust. Somebody who is not trustworthy is going to reveal their true colors. But I never would be a person who would pick up somebody's phone and go through it, or go through their email or whatever. I never would. I don't. And encouraging that type of drama or behavior, first of all, it's not okay. That's somebody's personal information, and it is not justified by a feeling of potential mistrust. Whoever the person happens to be will out themselves, because they cannot continue in a sustainable manner like that, living a life over here and then living a lie over here. They just can't.
Yeah, they will slip up eventually.
They will, and you'll see their true colors.
Yeah, because you also, with lies, people that lie, when you tell the truth, you remember. But when you tell a lie and you tell many lies, eventually your stories will not add up later on, and people will figure it out.
Yeah, and you'll be like, what? I thought you said this other thing. Okay, that's really weird. But So have a little faith in yourself that you're going to
Mhm.
pick up on it. But then, like you talked about, when you change the rules and you decide, I will not tolerate anything but the best treatments of myself,
Mhm.
you will have different people in your circle. So if you're committing to trust somebody again who has hurt you once, okay, then it is on you. It is on you to do the work, not to throw it in their face. You don't get to bring it up. Have a conversation about it, and then you're done. You both agree. We've talked about it. Make sure you're heard. Make sure they're heard. That's great. You can close it and move forward, but you must remain committed to keeping that door closed. You don't get to bring it up. You don't get to throw it in their face. You don't get to use it in an argument. You don't get to justify it for any type of behaviors, use it as justification. You just don't. You are essentially saying, I forgive you and I'm erasing what you did. So, if you do it again, you'll tap into it and you'll go, okay, well, I know what kind of person you are. But if you're committed to forgiving somebody and trusting them, you have to go all the way with it, all the
Mhm.
way.
So I know we don't have a lot of time here today. So I wanted to kind of come back to the root of a lot of this. And I would say um, having the ability to love yourself and having tools to show yourself self-love and start to develop a relationship with yourself. That's something that you had mentioned on your podcast on these subjects. And so I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that, because you've said about setting new rules and standards for yourself and like really being ruthless about, I am changing. No, I'm not going to get roped into these codependent dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
you had said self-love is preventative medicine. And I really like that, because when you take care of yourself, you're able to kind of recharge your battery. So, like how would you, like if you were going to tell somebody like how to model self-love, or how to start to develop that, because maybe this is the beginning of that journey for them, what would you tell them?
It really comes down to acceptance of your quote unquote faults, which I don't believe we have faults. I think we have needs that need to be taken care of. Um, so self-love for me is kind of broken up into different categories. There's the physical aspect of self-love and we heard about this. I think this was a very 2019 thing where it was like slip into a bubble bath and make sure that, you get outside in the sunshine for 10 minutes and stuff like that. It has become a little bit more critical this year that you are doing some preventative maintenance on yourself and your mind. So, um, it feels like to me when I talk to people who are struggling with this, that they are fighting the urges of being human. We're so human and we are so unforgiving about being human. We get tired, we get angry, we get sad, we get depressed. We are designed to respond in these ways as well. So I need to give myself positive messages. Now, I've had like a 6-year head start because I got sick with this thing 6+ years ago. Okay. And I had to decide how I was going to treat myself. All of a sudden, I was sleeping 16+ hours a day. I lost my job. I couldn't walk. It was ridiculous. I had incredible pain that they couldn't treat. I was frightened for 5 months. We didn't know if I had a spinal tumor. It was very dark. And my life changed from, being the hub and being everything for my kids and for my fiance at the time to you can't do anything. And I had to be okay with that. I had to make a choice. Am I going to be okay with that over here? And my life is going to look this way and it's going to look different. And in some ways, maybe it's even going to be better. Okay. Or am I going to be over here and I'm just going to be mad all the time? I don't have this anymore and I can't do this. Am I going to look at it from a point of change and what am I supposed to do with this to make it better, to make it okay? Or am I going to look at this as like, this is tremendous loss, I'll never get over it? I had a choice to make concerning my level of pain. Not to a degree like physical pain, kind of a little bit, but mental pain, which does impact the physical pain and how you're looking at things. And if you're going to, try and be distracted so you can ignore the burning pain in your feet or whatever, right? But I had a choice to make. And there is no way that I was going to come down on myself for being in a condition that I had no control over. There was no way. So I was going to love myself. And I began to think, those days when I felt really overworked, disconnected from my kids, I would come home and snap at people to get dinner on the table. I'm trying to do laundry. I'm trying to do everything. And I'm not fully trusting at the same time because I haven't had a need to. I didn't need to until I got sick. Then I had to trust a lot. And I had to let go of a lot.
Because you would have had to have a lot more help and assistance and stuff as well, I would imagine.
I still do. I still have the most amazing husband who has absolutely stepped up and evolved with me. We had moments where he was mad too. When I was diagnosed, he was mad. Of course he was mad. He's allowed to be mad. He's not mad at me. He's mad at the situation. I was mad. We were both sad. We both held each other and cried. I tried to push him away, but the bottom line was that I was done punishing myself. I was done. I was so mean to me before. Oh, you can't do this and you're not even smart. I didn't think I was smart until I was 32 years old. I just thought, well, this is what I've been given. I don't have any talents. Nobody ever stopped to listen to anything I had to say. So all of this, I'm funneling all of this. And then I had multiple relationships. I had multiple marriages. So I was a hot freaking mess. And then you add in that element. And when I was overworked, I remember wishing, God, I wish I could just get off this train. It is so fast and I'm missing life and I'm missing my kids. Well, guess what? Here's your ticket. Time to get off the train. So then I thought, wow, I really got what I wished for in a very different way, but I got what I wished for. So now what am I going to do? Prior to 2020, nobody else or very few people had the ability to reboot their lives. It is like I kicked the plug out of the wall and reset the whole damn computer and said, you did it up to this way, to this point, and you weren't happy. Now you have a chance, and you're not screwing this up with negative self-talk anymore. So I started switching it out, and I started having, just like I had the fight go-tos kind of, you're not going to talk to me that way or speak to me that way. I would say that to myself. So I'd be like, wow, Hilary, way to go. You didn't get that thing done. And then I would go, whoa, 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 whoa. In my head, I'm saying this, that's not true. That's my go-to thing now. If I start saying something negative to myself, I go, that's not true. What's really going on? Why are you responding that way? Do you like what is coming through your head right now? No, I don't. Okay, great. We're going to try again. So
yeah, because having a positive self-talk, like how many people are really good at the negative self-talk? Like, oh man, you really freaking blew it. You're so stupid. And oh man, like nobody likes me. And oh, I'm being left out. Like all of those things, they're in there. And if you're not conscious to do the work and speak back and say, no, that's not true. Like you're saying, holy smokes. And that is where a lot of self-sabotage comes from, because it makes you act in a way and show up in the world that makes the world reflect that.
100%. It does. How you are showing up is what you are attracting back. I was attracting chaos because I was making decisions out of desperation. I was attracting more acrimony because I was responding in an angry manner, or I was being overly dramatic and sad and whatever. I needed to seriously take the biggest chill pill. But it was interesting because when I envisioned changing, I didn't envision that I would have to change the self-talk. That just kind of came along with it, where it was like, You are not going to succeed in a positive and abundant manner if you speak to yourself negatively. You never will. You won't hit your goals. I hate to say it. You have got to be relentless when it comes to your positive self-talk. And eventually what that does is it spills over into exterior self-talk. So if somebody says something, now I'm like, I don't know how to participate in this. I don't talk that way to myself, and we don't talk that way to each other. Like, we're fantastic about arguing now. We'll just go, you know what? Not a good time to do it. Let's revisit it later. Okay, so we've got differences. We'll revisit it later. But it doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be this, I hate to say it, like, you don't have to go anywhere to see a psychologist or whatever. And I'm not coming down on people who do, or if you take medication or any of that. Like, those are tools, but change comes from inside you. And it comes when you want to make the change and you're ready and you back up your behaviors to make that change.
Yeah. And being open to learning as well. Like, I know, being open to learn and learn different tools and techniques and go, okay, like maybe this one, works for me in certain situations, but then I need something else to access at other times, and being, open to learning. And, it was interesting because you had said about how oftentimes people will kind of look at other people like in these books who have overcome these, very difficult challenges in lives. And they seem to, now they're authors, they're entrepreneurs, they're very successful. And people will look at them and kind of put them on a pedestal and be like, oh man, like they're so lucky and they're so this and that. And, it kind of just comes down to the fact that anyone can do it. It's making the decision, like you said, I want to change, I will change, and then doing the best you can with what you have, and being like, I can have that too.
Yes. And if you fall off the wagon, it's kind of like a diet. Okay. And I hate the D word. Everybody hates that word.
Depends on the D word.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Delectable steak. Okay. I love that word. That's fantastic. But if you fall off, it's not to browbeat yourself. It's not to beat yourself up and I can't do it and forget it. It is to get right back up. And anytime I have not met my goals, I have not beaten myself up. I refuse to do that. I won't justify it. I won't say, well, I was tired and so then, I missed that or whatever. I won't say that. I'll say, wow, I didn't manage my time correctly. Okay, so I'm learning from that. But I absolutely refuse to beat myself up about it. I will acknowledge it. This is what happened. These were the circumstances. This is how I behaved in the circumstances and the decisions I made. And this is what I would do differently. So I'm acknowledging it, but also learning firsthand doesn't have to be such a negative thing. Like, it is wonderful and it gives you priceless information. Don't do that again. Okay. If you start a project, you don't have that information, whatever that is. If you engage in a relationship and you wind up over here having a disagreement and it results in a split or whatever, great. I've got excellent information as I move forward. So it's almost like you look for reasons to learn and grow without wanting to make mistakes at the same time, but you cherish those moments. Those moments and moments of pain, I believe, are when our true growth happens.
Yeah, and accepting and embracing those struggles that you've gone through. And I like what you said about, falling down but getting up again, or not, letting life take the wind out of your sails, or at least, or you find the wind quickly again. Because, if you have the mindset that, okay, I'm going to get up
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I was snowboarding a few years back. This is almost 10 years ago. I can't snowboard anymore, but
Mm.
I kept falling down and falling down and falling down. I was like, oh man, like this sucks. Like it hurts. I feel like I can't keep up with anybody. Trying to get off a chairlift is like, I don't know how many times I fell on my face. It's just so embarrassing. But what I realized was every time I fell down and I got back up again, the getting up part was easier. The falling down still sucked every time, but the getting,
Yeah.
I had this epiphany where I was like, if the only thing I learned here today is that no matter how many times I fall down and get up again, that is what's giving me a certain amount of strength, because I'm like, I know I can get up each time and a little
Yes.
time better. So if you were to give people a little bit of advice on daily things that they could do,
Mm-hmm.
kind of covered like self-care, like, you know, maybe a bubble bath or a walk, but you had mentioned before about doing one thing and focusing. And then another one was celebrating small wins,
Yes.
because that
That's
builds
huge.
confidence. Can we get into that a little bit before we let you go?
Yes. So you can layer on top of that small wins, especially, and this is what they do a lot of in sales training, is they teach you to focus on the small wins, because the small wins do something to your mind. They tell your mind that, in fact, you can do this. And now that you've done it on this level, you can escalate and you can do it on a higher level. So it's critically important. And I think it's also important to condition yourself to celebrate yourself. We don't always have to be like, I got a new car and I won the lottery. No, you know, and when you're chronically ill and you know this, your small win might be, I went to the beach today and it was great. And I haven't been to the beach for years. That might be your small win. You know, your small win might be, I tried a new nutrition plan and I made it through a day. I'm going to do it. I had a small win. I think it was like 3 or 4 days ago, when I started the new Lyme treatment, because I was nervous. You have to start taking 4 pills at once. My body is hypersensitive. And when I am intensely flaring, my throat goes numb and it feels like I can't breathe. And I hate that more than anything. Like, please take that right now. I can deal with anything else. So that was my small win. And I feel great. And I am proud of myself. I did it. I overcame the fear. It enables you to do more. Now I'm talking to a trainer tomorrow. Hopefully he can help me. Small wins can snowball into bigger wins. When I lost my job, I had to email at least 250 people and say, hey, I know you. We worked together like 5 years ago. I'm sick. I'm starting my own company, and you know my work, and I'm just throwing it out there. Like, you can't. And that's how everything kind of came to be. And I built off of that. Those were small wins. Every time I got an email back that was like, hey, yeah, let's talk. Yes, I'm that much closer. Yes. And you can use that as a ladder to reach your goals.
Yeah. And when you're doing that and you're giving yourself, like you said, purpose and meaning, because those small wins do give you purpose and meaning. That's actually why I started my podcast. And that's why I started writing, my Instagram, everything. It's because the same thing for me, all of those, with like, you get absorbed into the physical pain, and then you end up with like the low mood and everything. And you can spend, because your body's like not able to handle much, especially when you first get sick and being injured and having all of that downtime, and the life that you were used to living is no longer the life you're living.
Right.
And so being able to give yourself some meaning and purpose and celebrate these little wins and like all these little baby steps, and rather than getting wrapped up into the identity of I'm sick. I'm a sick person. I'm, and falling into the hopelessness that, my God, does grip all of us in our low moments for sure at times, but
Sure.
like not staying in those places. So, I just love you so much, Hilary.
Oh, I love you too, sweetie. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm glad you're doing this, and I'm glad you're stepping into your purpose. That's really important. It's
Well,
really important.
I was going to say what's really interesting about my whole book writing process and how this all kind of came to be. I really do feel like it's just kind of fallen into place because with even with just getting like this disability grant and everything and working with Community Futures, what's kind of interesting about that was one day I'll just quickly tell you this before I go. I had been looking online for grants through the government because I was like, I got to figure something out because you need to have a little bit of money to be able to grow anything. So I was like, maybe there's some resources.
Yeah.
And I had been contacted by Community Futures. I never actually messaged them. I don't know to this day how they contacted me. Yes, this is the strange part. And then having my meeting with them, and then through speaking with one of their other clients who worked with you, and then all of a sudden you fell into my lap and we have all these parallels. And I'm like thinking, okay, I really do feel like if I hadn't have gone through some of the things I've gone through and this last car accident especially, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't have the motivation and drive to do what I'm doing. So you fell into my lap. Believe it or not.
That's amazing. I didn't know that about Community First, though. I had no idea that they like this just kind of, happened. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That is a gift right there from the universe.
I know, it was a sign for me because I was having, I was like, God, I got to figure something out. What am I going to do? Because I'm like delivering food and I'm like, okay, like physically I can't do enough of this for me to make enough. I'm like, what can I do? And and it was just so interesting how everything started to unfold. And I just have to say, for people who have or are struggling and facing some kind of challenge in your life, just don't let the challenge define you, and just keep finding ways to overcome and find a way through the obstacle, push past the fear of looking stupid, sounding dumb, failing. All of that.
Oh yeah, that fear has to just take a hike. It is not even relevant, and it is the making of your own mind that it wants to come up against you and protect you. That's all that is. But the imperfect action is going to progress you further. And then I like to talk about turning your pain into purpose. That's what I wrote my book on. So my book is Sick Success, and it's the quasi memoir with some business lessons and life lessons at the end of it. But when you find your purpose, and it's crazy, but it's also very exhilarating to find. It can even come through pain. It can come through a car accident. It can come through an illness. It can come through a devastating breakup, a death, a loss of some sort. You can use that pain to find your purpose and ask the question, what am I supposed to do with this? Not why. Why to me was always like, don't ask me that question. Nobody can answer that question. There's no pointed reason why, but give this to me, this horribly wrapped gift. Okay. It's the worst gift ever. Give it to me. And I'm going to go, what am I going to do with this? It's a broken Rubik's Cube. What do I want with this? And that has always been a big deal in my journey. So, and I know you're on a very similar one, which is cool.
Which, by the way, I am still working on getting all of my notes put together to send to you.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm right here.
So where can people find your book?
So people come find my book on Amazon. And again, it's Sick Success. And it's the entrepreneur's prescriptions for finding, purpose through pain and profit. That's it. I always get that. If we're finding pain and profit through purpose, that's what it is. So they can get my book on Amazon. And it's a culmination of a number of things. So again, it's my life story is in there as much as I could write without my head blowing off. And then it's everything that came after that, the realizations that came after that, how to make tough decisions, how to get in touch with your gut, how to use anxiety to become productive. It's all kinds of those things and the tools that I discovered along the way, and it stems off of my nonprofit Sick Biz, which I developed to help chronically ill and disabled entrepreneurs, and it's turned more into a community forum than anything else because people don't really want the resources, they just want the connection and like, you get me, you understand.
Mm-hmm.
It's a validating community, but we also hold each other accountable at the same time as we lift each other up.
And so where can people find you?
So people can find me. You can go to sickbiz.com. You can go to jhill with 2 L's mark.com. That's my marketing business. You can find me on Facebook. I'm all over the place. And make sure you listen to Sick Biz Buzz too. And I have a new podcast coming out probably next week called Go Book Yourself. And
I love that.
It's all the secrets that I have amassed from working and helping to self-publish over 100 books in the past 4 years. And they're bite-sized snippets. So it's how to amass all that knowledge in sound bites so that you can, reach your goal of writing a book or learning more about it, all the publishing industry secrets and so much more.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely going to tune into that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. You're very inspiring. And I always enjoy chatting with you.
I do too. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for coming on today. And I will be definitely talking to you soon.
I'll find you. I know where you are.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. You got it.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Shanti Ma podcast. Remember to hit like and subscribe so that you can keep up to date with all of my new released episodes. Until next time.